uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom! Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Bushka, and today's video is all about recoil. Everything you want to know about recoil. It's an erotic journey of discovery, a voyage of knowledge. No, it's not really. It's just something that we want to talk about. I've done lots of videos on attachments, the best grips, the best sensitivity settings, putting them all together. But there's more to it than that, even more to it than that. And a lot of what I am about to talk about may seem crazy to some of you. For instance, the fact that I will often run a thumb grip only on my primary AR because I love low recoil is going to strike you as a little bit odd when, look, let me get to this. This is a grazer. It's 10 feet. I don't even freaking ADS in. I just hip fire and clear the target. Sweaty Asia solo FPP lobbies. Like, they're everywhere. This is an M416 at 150 meters with a 6X. And what have the two got in common? Well, not a whole hell of a lot. And this is why the topic of everything about recoil is so important. First and foremost, what is recoil? Recoil is basically the gun's reaction to firing the physical force out the front end, the bullet. And it drags the gun up. The kinetic energy pushes the gun up towards the sky, which makes a lot of sense. That's not the problem. The problem is the left and the right. Every man and his dog can just pull his thumb down, but controlling the vagaries of horizontal recoil is the difficult part of the whole equation. Controlling a gun that's going up and then right and jerking left and then jerking right twice and up, down, and it's just difficult. To do this traditionally, people would run an angle grip, a half grip, or a vertical foregrip. And these would control recoil or help control recoil. Then you'd add in attachments like a compensator, and that's a muzzle attachment. And how do you feel about this bloke? Poor bloke, forgetting to turn on automatic fire, and he's a Mark 14, and he still nearly wrecked me. Like 10 out of 10, not sorry. A lot of stuff. Let's go down the freaking rabbit hole here, right? The most important thing you need to understand here is that recoil is easy to control when you aim. Are we all agreed on that? There's a reason it's called ADS, aim down sights, because when you're aiming down the sights, you can point where the gun is going in far greater, you have a much finer amount of motor control over where the gun sight's going. And if you're running an AKM and you want to hit someone at that range, you ADS. However, if you're running TPP and you can third-party peek around a corner, you don't really want to ADS. You just want to strafe out and blow the bloke up. So that straight away tells you that sometimes certain modes of the game are better for, well, not better, but you just don't need to control recoil in the same way as you do in other modes of the game. FPP, I believe firmly, is a lot more reliant on ADSing. It's just incredibly reliant on ADSing. Whereas TPP, you can get away with all kinds of crazy hip fire. And people do. It's like, the fact of the matter is, all the snakes, they're generally not ADSing. They're just hip firing their asses off. Okay, so aiming down sights is what's important. That's my sensitivity settings on the right of screen. I don't know if they're going to be right for you, but they may well be a good point for you to jump off and start fixing your recoil control. Sensitivity settings control, that's the ADS sensitivity, right? The aim down sight sensitivity. So when I'm using a red dot. Also, use aim assist. Use aim assist and a red dot. Using aim assist and a red dot, aim assist seems to work for me on a red dot and a holographic. I don't seem to get a whole lot of aim assist on a lot of other scopes. Red dot and holographic, I don't know if this is just a legend. I need to do more testing. But if I want to fire with a red dot at range using an AKM, I can hit bullshit shots like this sometimes just because I feel of aim assist. It keeps compensating and helping out. Use it. Be helpful. Watch out. It will track knock targets in horrible situations and make you want to eat your device. But I can't help that. That's just how it goes. Let's talk a little bit about shell velocity. The M416 is an excellent long-range spraying weapon. It has a light recoil profile. It's very, very easy to control sprays, and it has an amazing shell velocity of 909 meters per second. The AKM has 714 meters a second shell velocity, which is just rubbish. The M762 has 697 meters a second shell velocity, and they suck in terms of ranged spraying, not because you can't do it. I've done a whole video where I use an M762 all the time, but because the shell velocity is so much higher and the recoil profile is higher, that means that so much lower, the shell velocity, sorry. That means that you've got to almost guess where the target's going to go, because the horizontal recoil goes haywire and then you're guessing about leading targets and everything. It's just easy to run an M416 for that. But an M416 doesn't suit every situation. It certainly suits this situation where you're spraying a couple of targets at decent range and you need a light recoil profile where all your shots hit, despite the fact that they are a less damaging round. But if I'm running a gun like the M762, which I adore, the recoil chart on that is way worse than the M416. But here's a tick. At 10 meters, I don't give a rat's. The shells are all going in. This is a Graza. It's the worst recoil profile of all the ARs. As long as I can hit a guy moving in a car with this thing, as long as I wait till he's close enough. And then it's like brrr. So with that in mind, if I'm running a Beryl M762, I run a thumb grip, because a thumb grip will give me the fastest ADS speed for a gun that I'm only realistically going to use in very close quarters combat. And that means that I am able to get that tremendous 7.62 punch onto the target much faster. Now, if I'm in FPP, that is super important. If I'm in TPP, it's not everything, you know? You can get away in TPP just with third-party peeking and strafing out because of desync and such, and being very, very successful with it. But if you ADS in certain situations, you get a massive benefit, right? So look at it this way. Beryl 7.62 is 0.285 seconds time to kill on a level 2 best. 0.22 of a second to ADS in with a thumb grip and a red dot. 0.37 seconds to ADS in with a 3x scope and a half grip. Okay? That's 0.15 of a second. That's 0.15 of a second on a gun that takes 0.285 of a second to kill. That's a huge advantage. To be able to aim that gun quicker than the other guy could be the difference between dying and absolutely shredding. And for that reason, I think a lot of people overvalue the grips. I used to as well. You've got to use the right grips on the right gun, but you've got to use technique too. Like, look at this. This is a 6x spray with a DP28, and I am kneeling down. I'm crouching down. When you crouch down, your recoil profile gets drastically cut. Even on a hot drop where I grab an AKM, I take the time to crouch because that target over there to my southeast is absolutely as vulnerable now as he will ever be. And crouching, even with only iron sights, makes life so much easier. So many things to take into account here. If you've got a low shell velocity weapon, a gun that fires very slowly, then you should probably think about not using it at range. And if that's the case, then whatever grip you run is pointless. Like UMP45, for instance, is, in my opinion, the worst gun in the game. I hate the thing. And of any automatic weapon anyway. It's got 300 meters a second as a shell velocity. That's slower than a VSS, okay? If you're running any kind of grip or anything on that apart from a thumb grip and a red dot, I think you're insane, because the only thing it can do is shoot with little to no recoil, okay? The Graza is built for that, just shredding people, tearing them apart at very close quarters. I don't know what the UMP is built for, possibly unarmed combat, but whatever the case may be, if you're running like a long-range spray configuration on it, just give yourself an uppercut. And then consider how you play the game. Do you do a lot of third-party peeking? Do you do a lot of strafing with a weapon like an Uzi? If you're with an Uzi, the recoil profile is nearly non-existent. It's probably the best gun in the game for hip firing because it's got a massively low time to kill, 0.256, and it's got little to no recoil. Like, I'm in TPP here. I can see the targets coming, so I'm quite capable of deciding whether to ADS or to just hip fire like this and pre-fire them out. And that's with a Scar L, which is a 0.38 time to kill and not the best recoil profile of any of the 5.56 ARs. Who cares about your recoil profile when you're shooting a target at that kind of range? It's not going to make any difference. All these things have to be taken into account when you talk about recoil. And finally, like, can we just... I have to say, you should be running a compensator when you can. And when you can't, your primary joy to control recoil is going to be ADSing, okay? But you've got a playstyle. You've got a playstyle. Stick with it. Run to your strengths. Do what works for you. And you'll find that recoil is very manageable when you understand it, when you understand what it does, and when you understand what the weapon you run can do. Like, look at this. This is an M416 in a final circle with 2 guys in a solo versus squad match. And look at it hitting without ADSing. Like, that kind of range with this kind of recoil profile, who cares? Who cares what you've got on it? You could have a chicken with an outboard motor and it'd still hit the freaking thing. Like, if you want to use a long bomber, that's great. If you're on Miramar, you can use an M416 as your primary AR, because how many really, really, really close engagements are you going to have? Not until you get right up until final circle is that going to be important. And for that matter, your recoil situation, your recoil choices are going to be so much easier. If you're on Erangel, a DP28 cuts loose, because that thing can cover off on close and long range, and it allows you to run anything you want in your secondary slot. I've got an AKM there. Know your weaponry, know your shell velocity, know your attachments, know your playstyle, sort your sensitivity out, and understand the way recoil works, and you'll be a lot better player. I'm Bushka. Thanks so much for watching. Look after yourselves. Please subscribe to the channel. If you want to know all those numbers, the time to kills, the shell velocity, they are on my my website, thebushka.com. Just go to thebushka.com. All the graphs are there, all the stuff that you need. And remember that it is far more important that you get your own playstyle and sensitivity right than you copy mine. Like, figure yourself out first, and then come and talk to me about the rest of your life. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. And until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.